room was almost completely dark, so dark that any mortal would be unable to make out the figures standing around the pale, unearthly light. In the tilting reflections drawn upon the smooth marble floor, the glass orb looked more like a small, floating moon, glowing milky white and washing the stone chamber with its silvery blanket of light. In the pearly depths of the glass orb, there was an image of a very small child, his face chubby, his little fingers soft and pudgy, and his thumb obtaining wrinkles, for he'd had it in his mouth for a bit too long. Fate smiled lovingly, the lines around her eyes crinkling as she gently brushed a fingertip over the child's reflection. "Perfect," she whispered, her eyes pooling with tears as her mind filled with potential visions of the boy's beautiful, happy future, filled with both joy and hardships that were overcome and greatly rewarded. "This one," said Fate as her violet eyes twinkled. "This is going to be the one that changes everything." "That's what you said about the last one, too," came the merry, teasing voice of Chance, and the young man stepped out of the shadow to bless his mischievous smile upon the boy. "That's what she says about every one of them," scoffed Death. She drew her hood so that it hung heavily over her face, and swung her skeith around to point the sharp tip at the glass orb and the image of the boy nestled inside it. "Won't last long, this one. Played the game too well," she muttered, quietly enough that Fate wouldn't hear her. "Well now, let's not say that," Destiny, who had been standing next to Death and had overheard her, said in a sweet whisper, and her pink silk robes rustled around her as she stepped closer to the orb and squinted at it. "Does something seem a little off?" she asked hesitantly. "Perhaps you're just not used to your humanoid form quite yet," sniffed Envy, and looked imperiously down her nose at the others. "Not that I care." "There is something unusual about this one," Consigne said. She plucked the glass orb from the air to look closer at it, the light illuminating her quartz gray eyes. "Don't you think?" "No," said Fate protectively. "He's absolutely wonderful." Consigne gave her a peaceful smile and said, "I agree. But..." Lucifer sat straight on his throne. "Speak, and make it clear." "Well, it's just that... Well, you can all feel it, can't you?" Consigne said. There was a beat of silence, the air hanging heavy and closing over the orb's smooth light as if the universe itself was suddenly forlorn, and then Fate shook her head with a snort. "Of course not. You worry too much, dear one," Fate said. "Our job is to worry," Wonder pointed out. "Such is the way of the world." "World," echoed Death, spinning her skeith. "Humans make up the funniest terms, don't they?" "Oh yes, like frog. Doesn't the word frog seem very weird to you?" "It just doesn't feel very frog-like," Risk said. "And the word glitter and bottle, and canteen. Yes, that's an old one." "Risk, please," Destiny said faintly. "We're off topic." "Right, sorry," Risk said, and then after a moment he said, "And the word pebble. All right, I'm done now," he added quickly when Hate gave him a stare. "You're right," Lucifer said, rising from his throne. The universes gathered around the orb bowed their heads respectfully as Lucifer faced them. "Yes, I know, Pebble is very odd, I told you also," Risk said proudly. "No, I meant what Consigne said. Something does feel off," Lucifer said. Risk awkwardly muttered a few excuses and stepped back to hide deeper in the shadows. The boy, Lucifer, didn't get to finish his sentence, for from the glass orb, from the babe's tiny, squeezing lungs, came a sudden wail of devastating pain. Consigne held the orb at a better angle so that all the 30 or so universes could see, bunching around the glass orb and craning their necks for a better look. The young child was screaming, pummeling the air with his little fists. He opened his eyes. They were pure black as eternity and as hollow as infinite darkness. Lucifer's face went white. The boy's scream became louder and louder, more and more piercing, until it was not one scream but thousands put together. The baby began to cry tears of blood as his feet kicked from the pain and torture of 100,000 deaths. From his tiny mouth, he screamed words in a language of pain, a language formed from nightmares and lost dreams and hopes crushed to bits. Consigne dropped the orb with a shock. It fell to the floor and shattered, the still screaming image of the child shattered with it, the light bending through the glass so that his face looked unearthly and misshapen like a demon's. "No!" Faith screamed, falling to her knees. Chance and Fear reached towards her to help her up, but she waved them away, screaming, "No! No! It can't be! It can't!" "There must be some mistake. This hasn't happened, not in 7 eternities," Wonder said nervously. "What went wrong?" Risk asked no one in particular. Murmurs erupted through the hall, changing to arguments and then to yells, noise burning in their ears as they panicked, unsure what to do. Luck jumped out the window to escape the chaos, and Destiny fainted dead away on the floor, nearly getting trampled by the others as they ran towards Lucifer. "Enough!" Lucifer finally yelled as the universes surged towards him, calling out for help and guidance. The room quieted as Lucifer once again stood up. "What's done is done, and can't be undone, nor can we escape the consequences." He turned to face the shattered, glittering pieces of the orb, the glass gleaming like tiny diamond knives spilled over the floor. "All we know now is that this child either ends it," he bent down to pick up a shard of glass, "or ends us all." The edge of the glass sliced into his flesh, staining the broken image of the boy with blood. Thank you for listening to the Dusk Before Dawn series Prologue. Keep listening to the boy's story as history unfolds and the future is caught in the past. See you next time.